everybody, welcome back. I'm going to show you guys tips and tricks of how to draw a cube today or a rectangle. A couple common things that we run into when we're drawing these wonderful things. A couple things I want to talk about real quick is perspective. We teach 1 point and 2 point perspective for a reason, and that starts with the reason number one. If we draw from 1 point perspective, we see that flat side here looking like a square and a top side. So this would go back into perspective, meeting down here at a vanishing point, way back over here, 1 point, or 2 point perspective, being that if I hold this at an angle, my vanishing point would slowly meet back over here, and I'd have another vanishing point meet over on that side. So two vanishing points. Notice this one does not have a square on the front, it's a diagonal, and you see three sides. So a couple main things when I'm talking to you guys about this. I'm not going to get into drawing perspective. I'm just going to show you guys how to quickly draw a cube, but pay attention to those things I just talked about. So when I'm having you guys draw a cube, I'd like you guys to consider starting with that square. And so when you're drawing that square, a couple main things. You want to make sure that your corners are 90-degree angles. 90-degree angles mean a straight up and down and a straight horizontal. So there's different things you can use to check that. You could use something like an eraser to check that, or post-it note, or basically if you're drawing and your cube already starts with sides that are not even, you're not drawing 90-degree angles. This one is tighter than a 90-degree angles, and this one is wider than 90-degree. So you've got some different things to think about. My next thing I'm going to point out is your importance of your parallel lines. So these lines are parallel, those lines are parallel. Parallel means if they were a train track, they would be the same, consistent all the way across, never run into each other. You don't want a train track with wheels that run into each other. Okay, so that's how that goes. The next thing I'm going to pull is sides. And for a quick run through, I'm going to say just make those sides also parallel. Ultimately, we would want them to turn into a 1 point perspective vanishing point as well. But for this little cube, just do a little parallel. That way you don't end up with one that looks drastically shorter and not knowing where we put our perspective line or vanishing point. So just kind of make those parallel. You're going to also make this line parallel. So at this point, you have three lines that seem to be going at the same angle across the paper. I'm then going to take a vertical line and put a parallel vertical line. So this is parallel with that. That is parallel with this. So all three of those lines are in sync. I'm then going to take this horizontal line, that horizontal line, and make a final one right there. Let's look what happens if we don't use those basic rules of drawing a 1 point perspective box. First, if I draw a box that kind of doesn't have perfect corners, I might end up with something like that. Then if I draw the sides that maybe go different directions, I might end up not even showing a top. I do want to show a top on this one because that's what we're doing in our drawing. So let's say I have it going that way, then I have that going that way. Then if I use lines that are not parallel, maybe even come out like that. So that box looks like maybe somebody stepped on the inside. You know, you got a foot stepping right there, and somebody is putting weight on that, bending that inside. And you get that idea because that's bowing up, that's bowing down, that just kind of looks like the wall is sinking. So what I want you guys to do is make sure that you are catching your parallel lines, both horizontal and your vertical lines and your angle lines. Now let's turn that into a rectangle real quick. I'm going to take that, I'm going to draw a rectangle shape and take that back, parallel, parallel, parallel. Those diagonal lines are all parallel. I'm then going to take that line and put it there, this horizontal line, and put it right there. So that's a rectangle. Now that's focusing on 1 point perspective. Let's move down and discuss if this were 2 point perspective. If I were doing a 2-point perspective, I would have 2 vanishing points. I don't have time to teach that. So we're just going to say, you know what, we have this box. It's sitting in front of us, and it's at a 2-point perspective angle. So I've got that box there. I then have a line diagonal and a diagonal line going that way. Very slight diagonal, okay? I then have a parallel line. That's parallel with that. I then have a diagonal line this way and that way. So that diagonal line goes up. You can use your pencil just like I'm doing to check yourself. So mine's not quite as angled as I just now noticed, so I could angle it just a little bit more. But when you change one, you probably want to change the other so that you don't end up with a box that looks like it was stepped on. And then going to draw a parallel line. So these lines are parallel. Now what do I do with the top? Well, that's a great question. I've got to build the top. I have half of the top started. Now I have to figure out the other half. That's where this would shoot to that vanishing point. This would shoot to that vanishing point. And then the top is developed. Where do I know where the vanishing point is? Well, typically you would draw that. Those things would be established way over here, and you'd have a vanishing point. We didn't do that in this drawing, so for this situation, you would just have to figure out how to come through, draw your sides, draw your other side, keeping your lines parallel, and establish that top on your own. Now, how that looks if you do it incorrect, you would maybe possibly have a box that would look like this. And some sides are, again, kind of wobbly, inconsistent. So the squarer the sides, the more that you have this 90-degree angle. I sent you home with a triangle. That's what this is for. We're going to get into that eventually. That triangle will help you identify, is that edge perfect 90 degrees? All right. And that ends my video for the day. And I want to just let you know that hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. Bye!